The first thing I noticed about the house was the quiet. Not the empty kind that comes from bare rooms, but the steady quiet of a place that hadn't yet absorbed anyone else's habits. No televisions humming in the background, no sudden doors opening without warning, no voices calling my name from another room as if privacy were an inconvenience. Just stillness. I stood near the large window in the living room, holding the folder that contained the final purchase documents. My name printed clearly on every page. It had taken years of saving, planning, and quietly rearranging parts of my life that no one else seemed to notice. The house wasn't extravagant. It was simply mine. I had barely finished unpacking 2 boxes when the doorbell rang. I didn't have to check the camera to know who it was. My mother-in-law stepped inside first, smiling with the relaxed familiarity of someone entering a place they assumed they already belonged. My father-in-law followed, scanning the room with open curiosity. "Well," she said, looking around slowly, "this is nice." I nodded and set the folder on the kitchen counter. They walked deeper into the house without asking. My father-in-law peeked into the hallway leading to the bedrooms. "Good space," he said. "Plenty of room." It wasn't the first time they had spoken like that. Over the years, boundaries had always dissolved around them. Spare keys that appeared without explanation. Weekend visits that stretched into several days. Furniture rearranged because someone thought it would look better another way. At first I had told myself it was cultural, then I told myself it was temporary. Eventually I realized it was simply how things worked if no one stopped it. My mother-in-law turned toward me again. "So," she said brightly, "when are we moving some things in?" I blinked once. "Moving things?" "Yes," she said, laughing lightly. "You didn't think you'd be living here alone, did you?" My father-in-law joined in the laughter. "It's their son's wife's house," he said casually, waving a hand through the air as if that explained everything. "Which means it's the family house." They both seemed pleased with that logic. I leaned back against the kitchen counter and folded my arms loosely. "I'll be living here," I said. "For now, it's just me." For a moment they looked at each other. Then they laughed harder. Not cruelly. Not angrily. Just the kind of laugh people use when they assume someone has said something nad. "Oh honey," my mother-in-law said, still smiling. "That's not really how it works." They began talking again, but now the conversation moved around me, rather than with me. That room would be good for guests. We could keep some things here permanently. It's closer to the hospital too. I noticed how easily the house had become theirs in the conversation. My role had quietly shifted back to something administrative, like a person who had simply handled the paperwork. I didn't interrupt. Instead, I listened to the echo of earlier years, the time they had announced a 2-week stay without asking, the time they told relatives to visit, or a place, while I was at work, the many small moments when speaking up felt like it would cause more trouble than silence. Footsteps approached in the hallway outside the unit. A firm knock followed. The door was still open, so the sound carried clearly through the living room. 3 people appeared in the doorway. The building's property manager stood in front, holding a tablet. Behind him was another staff member and a uniformed security officer. The mood in the room shifted before anyone spoke. "Good afternoon," the manager said politely. I straightened slightly. "Hi, yes, come in." My mother-in-law looked between us confused. "What's this?" The manager stepped inside and glanced at the screen. "We're doing the scheduled resident registration check," he said. "Congratulations again on the purchase." I nodded. "Thank you." He turned toward my in-laws. "And these are?" For the first time since arriving, neither of them answered immediately. "They're just visiting," I said. The manager gave a professional nod and turned slightly toward the security officer. "As you know," he said calmly, "the building requires registered identification for anyone residing in the unit or staying longer than short visits." My father-in-law chuckled, trying to recover the earlier atmosphere. "Oh, we're family," he said. "No need for all that." The officer didn't smile. "Sir, do you have resident credentials for this building?" The room became very quiet. My mother-in-law glanced at me. The laughter from earlier had disappeared completely. "Well," she said slowly, "we assumed." The manager tapped once on the tablet and turned the screen slightly so everyone could see. The ownership record was simple. My name, no additional registered occupants. "I'm afraid building policy is strict," he said. "Only authorized residents may stay without registration." My father-in-law cleared his throat. "So we'd have to register formally," the manager said. "With the owner's approval." No one spoke for a few seconds. Then my mother-in-law picked up her purse. "Oh," she said quietly. "Well, we were just leaving anyway." The shift happened quickly after that. They moved through the living room with sudden efficiency, avoiding my eyes as they headed toward the door. The elevator arrived within moments. By the time the doors closed, the hallway had returned to silence. The manager finished confirming a few details with me before leaving as well. "Welcome to the building," he said before stepping out. Then the door closed. I stood in the living room again, the same quiet as before. But now it felt different, not empty, settled. The house hadn't changed. Only the boundaries had finally become visible.